Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Lindsay, and I actually have no plan for this video. So basically, I was going to do a gaming video, and I updated my computer and did all the stuff to do the video, and I was like, you know what, I don't actually want to do that. So this is my channel after all, and I do this for fun. So I gotta do what I'm gonna enjoy. So if I seem all over the place, if I'm not making any sense, if my sentences aren't very coherent, sorry. But this is, I just sat down and said I'm gonna film a little fandom ramble because I have some thoughts on Lord of the Rings, I have some thoughts on Narnia, and I really want to talk about Shadow and Bone season 2 because I just watched it, and I have read the books. I've read Shadow and Bone, I've read the Six of Crows duology, and I read King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. So I have so many thoughts on that. But I'm going to start, because I mainly do Lord of the Rings and Narnia on this channel, I'm going to start with Lord of the Rings. I'm going to do, my little Narnia rant is actually about the characterization of Peter Pevensie, because apparently he gets hate. As someone who loves Edmund, obviously, and he's my favorite character, he's my comic character, I have jokingly, I've made fun of Peter as if he's my older brother. Also because my older brother and I have the same age difference as him and Susan, so I do kind of feel that. I do kind of get that, and okay, so I make fun of him like he's my older brother, but genuinely hating on him, I don't get. So I do have a little ramble about that, but it's nothing serious, no shade towards anyone. It's just that my thoughts on the characterization of Peter Pevensie, especially in the movies. Then I'm gonna rant about Shadow and Bone. I have so many thoughts. So that's gonna be all over the place because I have so many thoughts. Head full. Head extremely full. I'm surprised you can't see the thoughts leaking out of my ears right now. That'd be so... That's like anime, right? When they have the words coming, scrambling all around them. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't actually watch a lot of anime. I really just watch My Hero Academia, but that's okay. So starting with Lord of the Rings, I feel like I don't do as much Lord of the Rings content on here. I know I don't do as much Lord of the Rings content on here, but I still love Lord of the Rings. I just want to put that out there. I think Tolkien is a whole other level when it comes to fantasy writers. I mean, I think he truly set the bar. No shade towards Lewis. Obviously, he's successful in his own right. He did just fine. I think, obviously, when you compare the books, Tolkien is just a kind of mastermind when it comes to world building, if we're being honest. It shows in the fact that he was I did so much world building for Middle Earth, and you're gonna hear absolutely all of it. Everything that doesn't even truly go with the story, I'm gonna put a ton of appendixes, so you have to read it. You don't have to read them, but you kind of, everyone does, I think. Everyone who's read Lord of the Rings reads the appendices, and then he has the Silmarillion, where he's you're gonna hear about every single elf ever, and just every single, the beginning of Middle Earth, and just and I don't understand. I have a whole video where Jess and I discuss the Silmarillion. I didn't find it to be that confusing, in all honesty. I think it is a bit all over the place because it's so many different stories, but, and that I think difference from a lot of modern writing is it's all a lot of sometimes there's a couple different stories that are interconnected, but this is just a lot of different ones. It's like Love Actually. But even more stories. So I get how that can be confusing, but I find if you just take it slow, if you haven't read the Silmarillion and you're interested in it, and having a ton of different stories to follow is confusing, I would just recommend taking it slow because it's really not that bad. But as I was saying, Lewis is a fine writer. I think he just didn't focus as much on the world building, and he literally put a lamppost in Narnia because Tolkien told him he couldn't. His whole thing was he focused more on the story than world building, and Tolkien is just a master of world building. I truly believe that, and that's why I think he really set the bar for fantasy in that sense. I think anyone I know who writes fantasy, I write, but for fun. I'm not genuinely trying to build any stories, but anyone I know that does, they take a lot of time to do world building, and I think Tolkien has a lot to do with that. I think he really was this is world building, and everyone's oh no, that's world building, I have to do all of this. And plus maps. there's maps in Narnia, and the Narnia books I believe came out first. What came out first, The Hobbit, or I'm not gonna look this up. The Hobbit or the Narnia books? No, The Hobbit came out before the Narnia books. I'm like 99% sure that's true. But he, like, putting maps in books, like, pretty much you can't have a fantasy books without maps in it. Speaking of Shadow and Bone, like, yeah, basically anyone I know who writes fantasy, they quote Tolkien at some point, or like are compared to Tolkien at some point. You know, like Harry Potter, it's been pointed out, anything with a chosen one where there's a curse and all this stuff, it's like, you got that from Tolkien because he kind of did it first. Because honestly, truly, I think a lot of people, when they create things, they put in their creations things from what they love. Like, either they're doing it subconsciously, they're doing it unintentionally, but if you grow up with this media, if this is your favorite media, it's gonna spill over into what you love. It's what you know, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So moving on, I want to talk about, I didn't have much to say about Lord of the Rings. I just feel like I don't talk about Lord of the Rings enough, and I was like, maybe I should just talk about Tolkien, because I don't think I've really talked about how much I appreciate Tolkien, just because I do more Narnia content. I feel like I want to make sure people know that I really appreciate how incredible Tolkien's work is. Narnia just had like a profound impact on me, so so that's why I tend to do more Narnia content. It is my comfort media, but I really, really, truly appreciate the beauty and masterpiece that is Lord of the Rings, and The Hobbit, except the Hobbit movies. Not to be like, they're fine, but it's just so Hollywoodized. That's a new word I've made up, because I mean they split it into 3 movies so they can make more money off of it, and they put Legolas in it and Toriel. They just, you know, money. So I'm talking about Peter Pevensie specifically in Prince Caspian, because I find the characterization of him to be very interesting, and I think, I mean, he's not really in Voyage of the Dawn very much, and I think the problems that people have with him have a lot to do with his characterization in Prince Caspian. But, and no one asked me to do this, and I understand if no one wants to hear this. I am just like, this is just my chatty video. It's my chatty, rambling fandom video. So here we are. So this video isn't this video isn't made to shade people. It's not like attacking you if you have controversial opinions about Peter, if you don't really like him in Prince Caspian. I can understand why people don't like him, but I want to explain why I cut him some slack and why I do like the characterization even. So the movie starts with Peter in a fight, which I understand is silly of him. His sisters are annoyed. Edmund has to jump in to save him. Edmund saves the day. Edmund saves the day so many times throughout Prince Caspian, let's not lie. But basically this is how Peter is dealing with his trauma. Everyone has different trauma responses. Fight or flight, he's literally fighting. He's suddenly gone from High King of Narnia to just some British teenager. He's lost his title. He's constantly told what to do by teachers, by parents, by the guards in the tube station or wherever they are. He has no control, well, not no control, but he has way less control over his life, let alone a country like he used to. So not to mention he's living through a world war, which I can imagine is rough on anyone. He had to leave an army when he was 13, so he has a lot of trauma from that alone too. But you get the gist. He's been through a lot. It can be annoying, him whining and acting out in anger, but who are we to decide how someone processes trauma, how they deal with it? Like I said before, everyone has different trauma responses, so I feel like to like belittle him for acting that way, it's like, cut him some slack. He could have been worse, honestly. So I'm gonna skip ahead to when they're in Narnia and Peter is insistent on being right, whether it's finding their way to Caspian or when it comes to arguing casting about the castle raid, which are 2 things that I've made fun of in his shorts. I'm sure I'll continue to make fun of them, just because, like I said, I pick on him like he's an older brother, but I also completely understand why he's like that. First of all, like I said, he was High King, now he suddenly has no power, and then he goes back to Narnia, and he's assuming he's there to regain his title, and then he finds his kingdom is completely in ruins, and he's here to help some other guy who is probably going to be king someday. So it's like, okay, he's still processing the trauma of having his title ripped away from him and being sent back to England, and now he gets a little glimpse of like things are gonna get better, and then it's like, just kidding, psych, you're here to help, you're not here to be High King Peter. I mean, you're always High King Peter, but you're not here to rule Narnia anymore. Sorry. And it's not Peter, when he's insistent on being right or being treated as the High King, it's not him being stubborn or childish, in my opinion. It's not intentionally, at least. It's him being desperate to prove he's still worthy of being High King, because he gets it ripped away from him, doesn't know why, no one explains to him. He probably feels like he did something wrong, you know? He doesn't know why it was taken away, and I imagine if that was me, I'd be like, what did I do to deserve this? And then he comes back and he thinks he's getting it back again, and he's not. So obviously he's like, please still treat me like I'm High King. I don't know what I did to deserve this. Please tell me I'm still worthy of this. Again, he might think he's being punished for being a bad king. He wasn't, but he doesn't know that. He's like 17 in this movie, I think. So he's got issues. He's a teenage boy. He was obviously feeling very insecure. I think Peter is impulsive, and part of his character, he's impulsive and more openly emotional than, say, Edmund, who is introspective and will swallow his emotions until they come out when he is enchanted, like in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Or I'm sure he like confides in certain people like Lucy or Susan, and maybe not Peter because it's the 1940s. But Edmund's more quiet and like I already said, introspective and will swallow his emotions. Peter is more openly emotional. I think we see that throughout the movies. It's a normal thing for two different people to act differently, to be two different people. Edmund may be my absolute favorite, but I'm not going to fault Peter for being different from him and dealing with trauma differently than he does. Back to the trauma between Peter and Caspian, that is partially because they're in love, but also they just don't know each other yet. There's just like, they don't know how to work together in the way like, you see bickering between Edmund and his siblings and Peter and his siblings because they're siblings, but they also know how to work together. And so when it comes to fighting in a war, like there's less of the arguments between them in this movie because they've ruled a country together. They've fought in wars together for 15 years. They know how to work together. Peter and Caspian don't know each other, and there's also that tension between like, I was the High King and now you're gonna be king. Understandable. And they also just don't know how to work together because they don't know each other. Peter assumes Ripetip's Your Highness was about him because he was called that for years. He was Narnia's High King for 15 years and probably didn't assume they were talking to the Telmarine Prince. So like that's one of the first times we see like a little bit of tension between them is when Ripetip says Your Highness and they both are like, wait, me? And then they, you know, are like, you. But it makes sense when you really boil it down to the fact that Peter's used to be taking on this leadership role and being Your Highness, and he's like, doesn't know this Telmarine Prince has already kind of started leading Narnia. And like I said before, he might have assumed he was called back to rule Narnia, but even just to take on a leadership role, if he's even just saving Narnia and not back to be the High King, he probably assumed that he was the leader taking on the leadership role. He didn't realize that that was kind of Caspian's job, and of course that's gonna cause, again, some more friction between them. It was awkward how they were stepping on each other's toes, but they just met. They came from different backgrounds, and again, Peter was so desperate to prove that he was still worthy of ruling Narnia, that he was still worthy of being a High King, but now a prince is talking over him, so there was going to be, again, that friction between them. But it's important to note the growth, okay? They go from yelling at each other to wanting to kill each other to this life isn't mine to take, it's yours. The growth of Peter being like, I'm gonna fight your uncle, and then going, oh, I'm gonna show him mercy because Caspian, this is your fight. You rule now, this is on you. Well, not like this is on you, like this is your problem, but like, here you go. You make the decisions for Narnia now. The growth, and not to mention he gives Caspian Rindon at the end of the movie, which I have a little bit of beef with because Edmund's just like, I never got to use that sword. But it was really, because once they both realized that they wanted the same thing, they wanted peace for Narnia, everything chilled, and they were in love. That also came with Peter accepting that he wasn't going to be living in Narnia forever as the High King. He will always be the High King of Narnia during the Golden Age. He will always go down in history as Narnia's High King. And as long as he did the best for his country now, that was all that mattered. And you can see that. It's just, it's little things that make you see that growth that you really have to pick out, but you can see that growth. Not to mention, Caspian was dealing with trauma too. He found out his uncle killed his father and was trying to kill him, and he found out that like Narnians do exist, and his people took this country, and he's like, I don't know what to do. He's also supposed to just be like 17, 18, so it's like, what? They were both just not doing great and taking it out on each other. Honestly, I think they both weren't sure where they fit in the time they met. Caspian was finding out his uncle was a bad person, and Telmarines in general were not great, and his whole world was kind of rocked, and Peter was High King, then just a teenager, then brought back to Narnia and found his castle was his ruin, so he was brought back, not to rule again, but to help this prince he doesn't know, so he was thrown for a loop there. They were both thrown for a loop there. In conclusion, Peter Pevensie is traumatized. Just like Edmund, just like Susan, and you know, Lucy is too, but I feel like somehow the youngest is like handling it the best. Probably because she was the youngest, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of that, she had more hope than the rest of them, I think. So yeah, all in all, we need to cut Peter some slack, and for the simple fact that he was High King of Fantasyland and suddenly sent back to England during World War II. So that was probably my longest rant. I like talking about Tolkien for 2 seconds, and then I was like, Narnia, this is that'll tell you a lot about this channel. Now, here's for something that I don't make content about, but I really want to talk about, is that season 2 of the Shadow and Bone series. So basically, I love it. I know, controversial opinion right off the bat. I think a lot of people don't like it because of the way it doesn't follow the Shadow and Bones books that well, and it does obviously veer away from the Six of Crows books, because the way that part of the way that it doesn't follow the Shadow and Bone books, it's the same way that it doesn't follow the Six of Crows, is that they're like together, and the timeline is messed up. But I love the Crows so much, and the show so much of the Crows that because you didn't think it was gonna, I didn't think it was gonna, because it's a Shadow and Bone show, and in the books, the Crows aren't really in there. They're not. I'm pretty sure, like, it's been a minute. It's been a hot minute since I read them, but I'm pretty sure they're not in it. So, I do, again, controversial, like the Six of Crows duology better than the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I still like it, and like I get it. Ben Barnes, the cast of the whole show is incredible. I saw this Tumblr post that it was like, the thing about season 2 is it's a ton of amazing, like it's so well cast, and it has amazing actors acting their hearts out with some of the weirdest writing decisions. And I very much agree with that. I love Kaz Brekker. I think he really carried this season. I've seen a lot of people agree with that. Freddie Carter acted his heart out in this season, and he was incredible. Jesper and Wylan, I love them together, and I love Jesper in general. So I really love seeing him come into his own. It happens a little bit in the books where I'm pretty sure, again, it's been a hot minute, I'm pretty sure in the books he has a moment where he's like, I'm going to accept myself for who I am, I'm Grisha and all that. But to see him have his moment where he like proves himself as a Grisha, loved that. I love it so much. I love the Crows. I could rant about the Crows forever. Now I want to talk about King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. Those were my favorite. Gonna be honest, because spoilers, if you haven't read them, there was literally no need to kill off David. Like, I don't think it added that much to the story. I think it was just to show, like, this is what war is, it's not fair, and it causes grief and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I think we all knew that. I don't think you had to kill David off on his wedding day when Genya has been through enough. She's literally been through so much, has enough trauma. Let me kill off her husband. So that's my beef with Leigh Bardugo there. My little bit of beef. Obviously, again, spoilers if you haven't read the books. Matthias? That's more beef I have. There was, like, I wasn't that upset. Like, I was very upset because I love Matthias and Nina together. But that wasn't one where I was like, there was no purpose to this. I was like, I kind of get the purpose to this, but I was also still mad, and you really, truly should have kept him alive. I feel like she already had King of Scars in mind when she made that happen, and that's part of the reason why. But I still don't agree. I think, and then I just get so mad that Nina ends up with someone else. Like, I do believe in the concept that you have more than one soulmate, but like, she... I wanted her. Like, she just got over Matthias too. Like, she's obviously not fully over him, but it's like, I wanted them together. And I don't mind, God, what was her name? His name. They end up being trans, which is cool. But their name when they were a woman was Hani. Hanny? I found out during the show that when I'm reading the book, I pronounced everything wrong. Because Genya, I was calling Genya, and just everything else I think I was pronouncing wrong. There was a few things that I was not pronouncing wrong, but most things I was pronouncing wrong in my head, which really checks out for me, honestly. But, so, I just have so many thoughts, like, the crows were just so perfect, in my opinion. I love Kaz and Inej, and I love how it's left, you know they get together, but it's not a definite, like, and they kiss and live happily ever after. It's just more open-ended, where it's like, you know they get together, but it's not like they get married at the end. Then Nina and Matthias, she kills off Matthias, and I get so mad about it because I really like them together, and I'm glad Nina still gets a happy ending, but what about Matthias? I just feel so bad for him, and I just loved them together. Anyway, Jesper and Wylan are just perfect, and that's the thing. I saw another post about this. It was like, there's so much angst with Kaz and Inej and Nina and Matthias, and there's like, Jesper and Wylan, they're just having the best time, the most wholesome relationship, and I do love that for them so much. But I wanted that for everyone else too. But yeah, the thing about Shadow and Bone show is there's moments where I was like, I don't remember this happening in the book, and because I know this doesn't follow the book perfectly, I'm gonna assume it did not happen in the book, so I don't know what's gonna happen here, except for the fact that I know who is supposed to live. So that's a thing. Like, I know, like, you get, like, I like how it keeps you on the toes in the sense that I don't know what's gonna happen, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna get out of this, but I know at least this character, they're supposed to get out of this. So, you know, unless things are changed, because she did say it's supposed to be, like, fan fiction. And that's another thing. I understand people wanting it to follow the books more closer, but Leigh Bardugo is an executive producer on this show. So what's happening is what she wanted to happen in the show. Like, we're not gonna have a ton of, like, political talks and all this stuff as you do in the book, because it's a show. They're gonna show more of the action than they are of the politics, and there's still, I think, a good amount of politics. Also, I absolutely love the moment where the crows are drugged and, like, Kaz is having the worst time ever. Tolia is having a bad time. Inej is not having a great, like, this is a desire of hers, but that she knows it's not real. It's kind of crappy for her. And then Jesper is just like, I am having the best time with my mom right now. Like, everyone, I just love Jesper so much. He's truly, we all need a Jesper. He's just so much fun. He really is. If we're gonna talk about, like, if this show is like fan fiction, can some of the people who are supposed to die, if the show continues, can some of the people who are supposed to die not? Can it be a fix-it fic? Can we have that? Can I put my input in there? I did see something that might be a Six of Crows show spinoff. Can we keep all 6 crows, please? Please. I love Matthias so much with Nina. I love Cass Brecker. I've said this all. I love the crows so much. I like, let me have a moment, okay? Also, I love Genya and David, and Genya did not deserve that. She has enough. She's been through enough. Like, the one good thing in her life you took away. Why? Because you like to hurt your readers. That's why. That's what all authors like, isn't it? Okay, here's what I love about each crow, okay? Matthias, I love his, internal strife and struggle of, this is what I've known my whole life. But Nina's not a bad person, but she did turn me in. But she had her reasons for it. But can I forgive her? Can I not forgive her? And is everything I know a lie? Can Jell, everyone who Fjordans, can we believe that Jell didn't want us to hate Grisha and blah 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 blah? And I just love this push and pull inside of him. And the fact that he is supposed to be with Nina and Nina is supposed to be with him, and forever and ever and ever and ever, and that's what I'm choosing to believe actually happened. And Nina, I just love how she is so sassy and carefree and just can hold her own. Inej can too. I mean, Inej with knives is like, what do they call her? What do people call her? Knife wife? And I love how Inej just strives to, she's been through a lot, and instead of that turning her evil like it does a lot of people, which given the right circumstances can happen to a lot of people, but I love how she takes that and like just wants to do good and wants to make sure that people have been through what she has been through, and that lives can get freed the way she has. That she can better the world so that people don't go through what she's been through, and she just turns her effort to helping indentured servants and all that whatnot. Kaz Brecker. So like, I like Ben Barnes as much as the next person. I don't dislike the Darkling. I understand the reason for the way that he is. I understand his motive. I just think the true, like, and like, he is angsty. I think all villains are a little bit morally gray, because I think just like humans, that they're not inherently bad or good. They like, yeah, he just is on like the darker side of gray because he's the Darkling, and he can't see the good in pretty much anything anymore. There's no possible outcome besides like, I need to be the ruler. I need to have if the only way Grisha can be protected is if I'm the ruler. Kaz Brecker, I think, is like the true, like, angsty, morally gray, tragic past. Well, they both have tragic past, but his more so is like, there's more good. Like, if this is the morally gray spectrum, and this is like dark, and this is light, like the Darkling's more over here and Kaz Brecker's more over here. And I think that's why I like Kaz a little better, is because all of his intentions are slightly better than Darkling's. The Darkling's intentions aren't horrible. Yeah. I mean, they're not the absolute worst, because he is doing what he thinks is best for the Grisha. He's just going about it all the wrong way. And Kaz isn't necessarily going about things the wrong way, they're just the illegal way. And they're like, Pekka Rollins is about, like, everyone he goes after is a bad person, whereas the Darkling's going after good people that he thinks are bad people. And he's doing things because of the fact that he was wronged. It is like, I need revenge. But it's understandable, because he was wronged as a child. His older brother, who was also a child, was wronged as a child by an adult, which is so messed up in so many ways. Adults need to protect children. But anyway, but he like may not be the best at showing love and affection, but everything he does for the crows, he's doing because he cares about them. He frees Inej. He wants to, he acts like he has no attachments, and then you have no weaknesses, blah blah blah. And it's like, we all know Inej is your weakness. Yeah, like he genuinely cares about the rest of his crows, no matter how hard he tries not to, and he does everything for a good purpose. He tries to help Alina. He helps people. But he's so angsty, and poor boy. He's such a poor boy. Poor, sad, tragic boy. So and Freddie Carter, I already said this, but he acted his heart out this season. Oh my god, like literally, what is it, like the 4th episode where he has that moment with Pekka Rollins that you're just like, okay, this is your season. Congrats, you dropped this. Like literally. And I like Nikolai. I liked him a lot in the books. I don't mind him in the show. I think because I like Katzbrecker in the show that like no one else is really trumping him right now. I like Mal. I think there's not enough appreciation for Mal. Just because he's like wholesome. he doesn't have as much tragedy as Nikolai doesn't even really have as much tragedy in these books or like angst in this show, because his angst doesn't really come into like King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. But Mal also has his issues. Like, he finds out he's Morozova. Like, his whole time, it's like, oh, I have been with Alina because I'm supposed to die for her. Like, they all have problems. I think, but that's important. All of your characters are supposed to have some problem. So, yeah, I do quite like the show. And also, like I said, I didn't dislike the Shadow and Bones books. I love the Crows so much. I love their little found family. I think I just love found family. I think that's what, and we have some, and well, okay, so I really ship Alina and Mal. So I'm like, I think I like Friends to Lovers the best, but I also really love Nina and Matthias, if I haven't made that very clear. So, it just depends on the story. I love a bit of romance and fantasy. I love fantasy romance. I love the Chronicles of Narnia and The Lord of the Rings, and I hope you subscribe to hear more of those and possible other fandoms mixed in like I have. I've also talked about BBC Merlin in the past. So if you like Narnia and Lord of the Rings, though, that's what I mainly do, so please subscribe for that. If you want to give your opinions on the Shadow and Crows book, who am I to stop you? So comment down below. Just let's all be respectful of other people's opinions, because not everyone's going to agree with you in life. Just going to put that out there, and other people are going to view things differently than you do, and that's all I have to say. Okay, bye!